Today, we're making fancy, fragrant, formidable lavender cookies and a nice pot of lavender tea. People use lavender to relax an anxious mind or to help you get to sleep in the evening, but please don't use it instead of prescribed medication. Lavender cookies are not medicinal, just delicious. I grabbed some lavender from my mother's garden. She grows a few different varieties, some short and stout, others elegantly grown with long stems and delicate flowers. I'm using the one whose scent I like best. If you're buying lavender to use in this recipe, please make sure it's food grade. Dried lavender in the food section of the store is more expensive than the ones in the craft aisle, but for the price you're getting lavender free of pesticides, fungicides and other nastiness. Let's start with lavender tea. The teapot holds about 1 liter of water, so for this much tea I use 6 or 7 stems of lavender, but I like it quite intense. For your first pot of lavender tea, I'd start with maybe 3 stems for a more mellow flavor, and if you want to add more later, that's always an option. Getting started with the cookies, I'm picking the lavender blossoms off the stems. I'll need about 2 tablespoonfuls. Water's boiled. Tying the lavender into a bundle is not just a nod to cottage aesthetic, but it's very handy for stirring the tea. I'm letting it steep, ideally for 8 to 10 minutes, but realistically until I remember I made tea, whenever that is. Other ingredients for the cookies are zest of 1 lemon, 300 grams of flour, 200 grams of vegan butter, and 100 grams of brown sugar. 3, 2, 1. Couldn't be easier. I'm using coarse sugar as it gives the cookies a little extra crunch. For a more smooth texture, use fine sugar. Add all ingredients into a bowl and zest the lemon. The lemon itself is not going to waste either, as I'm adding slices to my tea. Now attack the ingredients with a fork. Press the fork into the butter to turn it into bits and flakes. Then knead it by hand. The warmth of your hand will melt the butter just enough to form a dough. The second the ingredients stick together, stop kneading to avoid overworking. Form the dough into a ball and place in the fridge for at least half an hour. So, the dough is in the fridge, that means I'm taking a tea break. I have not forgotten about the lavender. I'm adding it to the dough just before baking. The reason for this is, okay, I have nothing but personal observation to back this up, but you know that weird taste lavender foods sometimes have, where halfway through eating you pause and wonder if you've accidentally bitten into a decorative soap? That thing? It doesn't happen to me if I add the lavender just before baking. But maybe that soapy flavor has a completely different reason and I'm just seeing patterns where there aren't any. Once your dough has been in the fridge long enough, grab 2 sheets of baking paper and a cookie sheet. Now we're adding the lavender. Get the dough ball and push it flat with your hand or a rolling pin. Add 1 tablespoon in the middle of the dough and fold over. Add more on top. Cover with a second sheet of baking paper and roll out to about 5 mm thickness. By rolling it out into all different directions, you're getting a pretty even spread on your lavender. I'm using the rim of a glass, but cookie cutters have been invented. I just haven't gotten around to buying any. Remove the excess dough in between the cookies and lay them out so they don't touch. They aren't gonna get any bigger, so even if there's a hair's gap between them, it'll do. But if they touch, they'll stick together in the oven. This first batch I'm going to bake for 12 minutes at 150 degrees Celsius, which will give me a pretty pale cookie. The second batch, which I'm cutting out right now, I'll bake at 150 degrees for 10 minutes and then at 200 degrees for another 2 minutes to brown them a bit more. Both versions taste great, this is just about personal preference. I finished cutting out the second load of cookies just in time to take the first one out of the oven. Let the cookies sit undisturbed until they have cooled. That's how you should do it, but in my kitchen I have no place to set down the second cookie sheet without burning my kitchen surfaces, so I'm transferring the still warm cookies onto a plate. Like a fool. Don't do that. Do as I say, do not do as I do. Since the cookies are still warm, they're breaking up in the middle, which is a shame, but you know, that's life. The second lot is out of the oven and you can see the difference in color. And here I'm trying to prove that once the cookie has cooled, it's stable enough to handle by knocking one against the side of a plate. Oh no, it broke. Now I have to eat it. Oh, shame. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe?